Well, hello, Pastor Michael Martin.
Hello there.
How are you today?
I'm very good. I'm very good.
Oh, great. Well, let me say welcome to the audience out on Facebook. Thank you for joining this live broadcast, the Green Fellowship Hour. We will be doing this monthly. And my first, most fabulous guest is Reverend Michael Malcolm from Stillmeadow Community Fellowship in Baltimore. So let me introduce you a little bit and then you can tell us all about yourself. Um,
All right.
so, Pastor Michael Martin has had careers in all kinds of things in corporate, human resources, entrepreneurial. You're all kinds of stuff, and you're all over the place. I read somewhere that you were originally from Flint and you moved around and got here. You could tell us all about that. Um, Southern California. You have started this Peace Park. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk
Yeah.
about your church and your environmental stewardship. So let's get started with you telling us about your all the things that you're doing and God is leading you to do in the environmental arena. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, following your lead, I am a uh, a native of Flint, Michigan. Um, I was in Flint before it was in the news badly, right? So I was there when it was this gorgeous, luscious, uh, encouraging, multi resources, good public education place. And General Motors was content and satisfied to be there. So I grew up there. I went to school in northern Michigan and Midland, Michigan, and then I went to a majority, very majority white institution, Northwood University in northern Michigan, and I wanted to be at a historical, black university and test that and try that. And so I was able to arrange a guest student situation, and so with Morgan State. So I came to Baltimore, went to Morgan, and then my future wife caught my eye, so I stuck around till I could get till I could get her to marry me. And I won't even tell you how many years it took me to get her to say yes. But I was headed back to Flint, right? Because I'd done internships and fellowships, all that with General Motors, so I had a nice situation going. So I ended up staying here in Baltimore. We stayed another few years, so that it ended up being 9, 10 years in Baltimore. And then for ministry reasons, I went to Southern California, Los Angeles area, and we spent 27 years there. And then recently, 5.5 years or so, 6 years ago, um, I was asked to think in terms of helping Stillmeadow Community Fellowship here in the southwest area of Baltimore, kind of do a restart, replenishing. They were on some hard times. And my wife is from here, and for family reasons and because of the described circumstances, it was just a good thing to try and you know um, be adventurous about. As you mentioned, I'd done corporate stuff, and uh, started pastoring in Los Angeles, and then had opportunity to do some entrepreneurial stuff. So I ran a human resource consulting company for some years, and we had an office there in Los Angeles. I had an office in San Francisco and in New York. So we were doing really good working with Fortune 500 companies. And at some point, I had to decide, right? I couldn't keep doing the consulting business and pastoring because they came together at one point. And one is a vocation or a adventure, and the other is a calling. So it was just kind of easy to choose. So, I went with the calling. So then we ended up back here, and like I said, 5.5 years, and enjoying the heck out of being in Baltimore. I always liked Baltimore a lot, and
Yeah, wonderful.
so I'm like a lot of people, one thing with all of the, sometimes bad news and bad press, one thing about Baltimoreans, they love their city.
They do.
And it's almost like illogical, right? I mean, the level of love is intentional and intense, not illogical, just intense. And I find myself in the same arena. I love this city.
Yeah, it's a wonderful city.
It is.
It has so many gems in it, and then so many things going on in the Black church, in the Black
Yeah.
community. So I know you're a part of that, and we're going to get into a little bit of that a little later. But I wanted to give the audience a rounding of you and where you came from and how you got here and all of that. So, but tell me.
Oh, 41 years. I try to always mention that. 41 years is how long I've been married.
Wow. Well,
Wait a minute. Let me
congratulations.
thank
You
you
give
very
us
much.
hope.
And I'm gonna give you one more because this is important to me. And my wife still likes me, which is different from love, right? She a Christian, of course she loves me, right? My wife likes me, and I find that I'm very tickled about that.
You might have to give some tips on how you keep your wife liking you, okay? I'm sure people want to hear that.
Right, right, right.
So, tell me a little bit about kind of how you got passionate about the environment. You and I met as I was doing interviews for Green the Church DMV, which we're about to kind of launch, and we're starting with other Black pastors and Black clergy in the area, focused on environmental stewardship, environmental justice. So we met in an interview like that. So could you tell the audience kind of how you got passionate about environmental issues as well as environmental justice for folks?
I I started out, I think probably the way a lot of pastors started, and then we get stuck there and don't know how to move forward. And my overall, no cliche, and intended, my environment demanded of me. I started out, I'm a National Geographic guy, right? And watching all of that. And I'm old enough to Wild Kingdom with somebody Perkins way back. You too young, you would know what I'm talking about. But you
I
know,
think I do.
so but that was enough wild life, right? And then I love outdoors and all like that, and but it was just at this kind of observational and participate minimally level. And then I come to Baltimore, and two things happened. One was I noticed how undone the natural, like the I always think of, when I give this example, I always think of Northern Parkway. I didn't notice when I left, but when I came back, I noticed the opposite. Baltimore was well taken care of by I guess it would be Parks and Recs and the forest, whoever does forestry stuff, just in terms of the woods in our, and there's a lot of forestry and woods in our city, and it was always well kept. And
Mhm.
again, I mentioned Northern Parkway. You drive down Northern Parkway, and again, you don't know it until it's different. But it's like it's so well kept, and it looks beautiful and everything. And when you come back, when I came back, it's like things are kind of raggedy. It's like I don't know if the budget got cut or something, but just all over. It's like we're not taking care of our forest, right? And um, over there near, I'm not gonna be thinking names, but just off of Northern Park, with just different areas, right, of the city. And then the other thing was the church that I'm at here on Frederick Avenue, Stillmeadow Community Fellowship, is part of the Frederick Avenue down here is in a flood zone.
Yes.
And so I'd been here a year. Well, two things were happening. One, they tell me about the church. They show me around the church. We talk about the church. I talk about stewardship and the fact that the church was not in good condition, right? And it
Right.
wasn't foundational stuff. It was just, I don't mean any harm. It was just ugly. It was dark. It was dreary.
Mhm.
It had that gas smell from the unused. It was just terrible. And so I started talking about stewardship, right? And we needed to have a beautiful place. It ought to be one of the most beautiful places that you come into. in a week. The church, it ought to be pleasant, or be, attractive in every way, shape, and form. And that doesn't have to mean that you have a lot of budget, right? You can do stuff. Pain ain't that much. You know what I'm saying? So come on. And so, we started addressing that stewardship in terms of our building and this huge parking lot we have, and how we were going to be able to interface with our community as a result, and be inviting in physical and spiritual and social ways. And then about a year after I got here, one of the guys took me through uh, the 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 property, the what now is the Peace Park, but then it was just the woods, DA woods, right?
The
It was
wood.
nothing but the woods. Didn't nobody go in it. Didn't nobody know anything about it. It was dark. There was all of these. People would talk about. I heard there's a creek in there. I heard there's a pond in there.
Yeah,
Like urban legend.
yes, wasn't it called a shortcut too, or something like
Yes,
that? Okay,
yes,
okay.
yes. And so kids who lived like above us, they knew because they used it as a shortcut, right, to get to their house. But they didn't necessarily know what was to the right or the left of the shortcut. And it's 10 acres. And for city people, 10 acres is a lot of land,
It is.
right? And so he took me through. I'm fascinated. I come back that next week and I tell the church, I know we've been talking about, and I've been trying to define stewardship, and that is a biblical principle and all of that in terms of the property we have and what we do about the building and our relationship. But I'm here to state that there's a new challenge or a new chapter to this. We have 10 acres of land we aren't doing anything with. I found out from them that they had tried to sell it a few times. They tried to develop on it. I feel that God didn't let it get developed on, because they were talking about housing or this, that, and the other. We got a lot of space for housing. We just got to address it in a comprehensive way, and in an aggressive way. And so it's still here. And I came back and said, soon this is no longer the woods. It is a forest, and it is now a Stillmeadow Peace Park. And so that's really how. So I'll tell you two things. So it is coming to grips with the park needed to be a peace park. It needed to be an entity. It needed to be alive figuratively and literally. And then at the same time, a few months later, the 2018 flooding in our area started.
Yes.
Right. That Labor Day, not Labor Day, Memorial Day weekend.
But, yeah.
And it was terrible. And you must know the story, but it was all of this, 7 or 8 feet of water running down Frederick Avenue. People being rescued off of a bus. There's a boat. There's several boats, maneuvering up and down Frederick. Well, they didn't tell me about this in my interview, about no about no flooding. You try to ask questions, people leave stuff out, man. And so, but it, man, it really shifted us into gear. We had been talking about the community and how we were going to be more, available, and almost literally, it was like the Lord brought the community, floated it to our parking lot, to our right in front of us. So immediately you either have to be very hard-hearted, very not in my church, not in my backyardish, or you have to say yes, state, whatever, yes, city emergency people, you can use our church as a distribution center and as a headquarters. So for months, there were all kind of people. I want to call out. Well, I'll think of it later. But there was all kind of agencies right here, working out of our fellowship hall, out of our sanctuary, setting up stuff, staging, because we had to go into these homes. There's 140 plus homes affected by this flood. First floor, basement, and or first floor flooding. It was a lot of damage. Then it started getting into mold and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Team Rubicon. That's what I wanted to mention. They are a organization across the country that are veterans, and they go into situations like this, like what we had, where people need, remediation. They need,
Mhm. Mhm.
repair and everything in there, and to get water out and all of that. So they and the city, everybody, they were partnering, and so between the forest and the flood, I had to up my awareness, my
Yes.
sense of responsibility. That's trying to answer your question, and my game, right? And so now I have to know about urban, about climate warming. I have to know more, like personally,
Yeah.
about justice in regards to not the economy, but the environment.
Mhm.
And a lot of things got defined, and I went to school over and over with people,
Mhm.
figuratively, and understood that if we're really going to be a benefit to this community, we have to advocate, we have to educate ourselves, we have to engage, because the flooding is accelerating. Because this was supposed to be 100-year flood, and everybody told me this is the
Yes.
100-year
Yes.
flood,
Yes.
and so now they're happening every 7 or 8 years.
Yes.
You gotta do something, um, and and it I'm a pastor. I was trained to be a pastor. That means, things like preaching, obviously, and teaching and providing Bible study and trying to do a little good work. But the truth is, 21229, where we are, it could use a lot of work, not a little good work, a
Right.
lot of good work. And this pathway could use a lot of good work. And
Right.
so, to whom much is given, much is required. It's a great opportunity to help and to be meaningfully involved. And whether you want to learn, now I know all this between our forests and our flooding.
Mhm.
I know terms and concepts and all of this that I wasn't interested in learning. I'm a
Right.
grandpa, right? And I'm a preacher. It's like I thought I was done learning. I'm not lying. I ain't used to
No.
be lying. I mean, you know what I mean. And so
Yeah,
it's like
I
all
know.
these new categories. My head would be hurting all the time. Oh man. And so, but it's what I need to be able to be helpful,
Yes.
right?
Amen.
And
Yeah.
so I can't tell you how exciting it was. For it took a while, but our church is right. When the flood happened, it was me and a few, you know
Mhm.
what I mean, that helped. And by the time the pandemic came, it was
Yeah.
us, right? As a church,
Mhm.
it was us. We got engaged, we got involved. And so it took food distribution to a whole nother level, and then the testing and the vaccinations. And our church has been engaged and involved. And so that's maybe one of the most exciting things to me, that whether it's the forest and you know things like understanding about canopy, different canopies, and
Right.
and
Right.
and
We-
different heat indexes in different zip codes,
Yes.
right? I
Absolutely.
never even heard of the reality that you can measure how many trees per whatever it is per mile or something in different zip codes, and that has something to do with overall health of a community.
Yes, it
We
does.
talk a lot about lead poisoning and stuff, and that's real, but
Mhm.
it's not. It's that, and how many trees? What is the canopy in our zip
Mhm.
code, right? In
Yeah.
terms of the quality of life. And so, we talk about differences in different communities and different areas of our city. We talk about the butterfly, the Baltimore butterfly, and all of
Yeah.
that. And the
Mhm.
truth is, there are different ways to measure that. You can measure that with the canopy. You can measure that, again, with the exposure to lead, right? But you can also with the quality of water, like I said, with the canopy, um, with how many trees are in different areas of the city, and it affects people's well-being. And so
Absolutely.
now we get to have with this wonderful 10 acres of land that we have been developing and planting trees and taking out trees that need to be that have been invasive vines have been choking them out, or this whole uh, another pandemic um, with ash trees. And so we are getting to make a space. We have a space that people walk through now weekly and take their And they like now, right now today, whatever the degrees are, it's close to 90, I'm assuming. Well, it's not going to be 90 in the woods.
Wow.
And you can feel it when you walk up into, you can feel the coolness, right? And you can feel your heart rate going down because you can walk all down and around and it's a whole mile. So you
Wow.
can do a mile in the Peace Park. And
You
so
make me want to go right now.
yeah.
I'm going to show some pictures in a minute, but
Okay. All
this
right.
is,
Yep.
I mean, it sounds
So
wonderful.
finish answering your question. So it changed my life
Mhm.
because I function in ministry inside. And
Mhm.
now we're taking what's inside and we're executing it outside in the park. And now we're taking what's outside the park and nature and the sense of, we got owls, right? We got a fox family in this park, right? We did a bug hunt the other week, right? We did a bat something where we at night people showed up
Wow.
so that our guy, the bat guy, and I don't mean no harm, but I gotta say this, and he's an African American young man, right?
Oh,
And
Batman.
we think we think if there's somebody gonna come show us something about bats or about bugs or about something, it's gonna be a mid-aged white guy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, real
Yes.
talk. And so it's so exciting. I've been meeting these young naturalists and forest people, and some of them white, but some of them are African American, and it's
Wow.
like, oh my goodness, yeah. You think you just doing your thing, but it's like, no, God told was it Elijah or Elijah? No, there's people on the other side of the hill. I got 5,000 more, whatever it was, right? It's like I got other people. I always got people on my team, and so it's between in the DMV. There are hundreds of people, thousands of people, and hundreds of us, I found out, who are interested in nature. I'll just say about that, where we did the bat thing. It was in the evening because you ain't gonna see them otherwise. It wasn't a good day. It was like it was a March or something, so it was kind of cool.
Uh-huh.
I didn't go because I'm like, ain't nobody showing up. Ain't no use in me lying. Our director of operations, Urel Tuck, she was there, and others were there. There was 30 something people out in the evening on a cool, cold evening looking for bats. And 2/3 of them were African Americans. I was
Wow.
done then. I was like,
Yeah.
I said, Lord, forgive me. My people, forgive me. Y'all interested in everything. Let's roll. Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Who knew? Who
Who
knew?
knew? Right? Right? So you can't admit it. It's like, oh, you thought, yeah, you thought it too. You thought was nobody coming in no looking for bats at night in the woods, in
Right.
the city, right? But it's just exciting to see how
It is.
people and to catch up with them. So it's changed. That's what I mean. It's changed my life, right?
Yeah,
So
I mean, this is so wonderful. I have some pictures I want you to kind of talk about
all
and
right.
maybe share. I'll share them. Let me share my screen and we can talk and you can tell everybody what you see. So this is one of the pictures I pulled that
Yeah,
it's
this is
looking,
nice.
you can tell us it's beautiful, but it's looking down, right? Isn't it?
Yep. This
Okay.
is up on a ridge in the park near the entrance. And that building through that you can see through is Stillmeadow Peace Park. That's our building. And you can see across the street there's some homes, and that's Frederick Avenue. And so you're up on a ridge. And then right in the foreground, you can see those man-made little sticks. Those are holding up trees that have been planted, right?
Oh,
Saplings and all of that. And so, like I said, I may have said this. We've planted over 1,200 saplings and little, beginning trees all over the park, and we've taken out, there you go, hundreds of damaged stuff.
wow.
And one of the things that I've learned from the Forest Service, USDA Forest Service is a tremendous partner with us. They're with us weekly, right? Like they're partnering with us in this because they want to do more in urban areas. One of the things that we learned uh, is that there's, what do you call it? There's maintenance all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
this is near the front entrance. This is the beginnings of it's developed more now since this picture was taken, but we're right under that tree. Every Saturday during the summer, Baltimore Forest School is happening, and
Yeah.
Terrace King II is managing that with Temple X, and we have these kids coming out. They're learning all about the forest. They're taking hikes in the forest. They're learning different plants and stuff. They're learning something about the trees. We have 27 types of trees in our forest. They're understanding. I think the other week they were taking some samples of the water because we're trying to make sure that we can. We have some bluegill that we have in an aquarium that we, this is over this year 2022,
Mm-hmm.
and they are don't leave, stay right there for a minute. I want to talk about that. But anyway, we have the bluegill. We're going to be putting them in the pond at the end
Mm.
of the park, and we have to keep track of the quality of the water. And
What
so
a
you get to introduce to kids that water isn't just water, but its quality matters.
absolute
And even though everybody would tell their kids don't drink water, we're having to say, I mean, don't drink water, at a creek or anything.
right,
We're having to say, we got to make sure this water is even reasonable for fish,
right.
right? And then what do we do about that? This, this is just some, this may be a Saturday. Here's what I wanted to make note of, and I think it's important. Um, wow, Robin, how do I say this? I'll just say it directly. On
Yeah.
any given Saturday, whether it's the Baltimore Forest School that Temple X, like I said, founded, or it's a bunch of different volunteers. We can have anywhere from 10 to 15 to 75 people on a Saturday helping in the forest, helping lay paths and drop more mulch, or cutting back weeds, or dealing with our forest patches, right? And dealing with them. But the people look like Baltimore, right? Do you
Mm.
understand what I'm saying? On
They're
any given
diverse.
day, I think it's very accurate to say, other than like some big 5K run or 10K run, this is the most diverse place in Baltimore City consistently on a Saturday. It
Right.
just is.
Wonderful.
And black and white kind of a thing, other kind of a thing, age like old folk and middle old folk and young folk and children and socioeconomic and educationally and any other way, and from different zip codes around the city and around the counties. People are, we've been able to cultivate oh, wait a minute, I see this kid's the back of his says love like Jesus. So
That's
we,
right.
of course, we have Christians, but guess what we also have? We have Muslims, we have people who follow Buddhism, we have people who can't stand religion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Who are
yeah,
there
yeah,
because,
amen.
right?
Yeah,
They're there because of the trees, right?
right,
They're there because of the climate. They're there because we have 10 acres and we're accessible.
right,
And
right.
so, I've had, members ask me, not a, but a few people was like, well, there's a lot of different people. Yep. Well, do you get to preach or give a word? Nope. I welcome people. I'm very candid and casually comfortable saying that, I use words like we Jesus people, just
Yeah,
so that everybody know we love Jesus.
yeah,
But that doesn't exclude us from loving you.
that's
So
right.
I don't do a sermon every Saturday or anything like that. But guess what does happen? People are digging in the dirt together. They're
Mhm.
planting stuff together. They're orchestrating moving rocks around or whatever together. They're wheelbarrowing together. And so every once in a while, unscheduled appointments or unscheduled conversations pop up. And
Mhm.
they may be directly about religion or Christ, but most of the time they're just from heart to heart connecting with people. And guess what people then end up walking away from? Huh. Those Christian people, they were very nice. If they're, if they have a bad thing about Christians or about church people, which people are always talking about church people in Baltimore,
Church
and they're
folk.
not church folk, and they don't say it nice.
Right.
So we get to be church folks that are tolerable.
You're right.
that
Yeah.
are interested in the environment, that can talk a little specificity about nature,
Right.
right? And so there's a verse that talks about being ready to give an answer to anyone who asks you about the hope that you have within, and to do so kindly and humbly. Well,
Mhm.
people won't ask you about your hope if they don't see some hope.
That's right.
So I don't minimize being friendly. I don't. I don't minimize having fun with people. I don't minimize being able to be in space with other people who don't think or believe the same thing you do. And in
Right.
some cases think you kind of nutty to be follow, the path that you follow.
Right.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with any of that. It's I don't know how we're gonna be the salt, you know what I mean, to
Yes.
I don't know how we're gonna do that if we stay locked up in our buildings
Yeah,
only on Sunday morning. So
exactly. And we know what they say about Sunday morning. It's very
yes,
segregated. And we gotta, we need to change
yep,
that.
yep,
But, I wanted to show this looks like the beginning. Is it like the beginning of the path or just one of the
yes,
paths?
yes.
And
Right before where I was talking about the kids and where the kids gather, this is just beyond that. And you start to go up that ridge and or that rise, and to the right is a big patch, one of our large patches. We have about five of them of where these 12, 1,500 trees are planted.
okay.
And right beyond that, it is enclosed in some soft fencing,
Hmm.
because we have deer that
Yes.
they don't have any deeds, they don't own any property, uh
But they
but
eat.
they eat all the time. They'll eat anything that ain't tied down, and so we're always battling against them,
Well,
just to let
they
our stuff grow. Yeah,
they were there before us, right?
absolutely, absolutely. I get that, but they don't have no deed, so they ain't paying no property tax. I know I'm
Oh,
upsetting somebody, but that's the truth. So we try to
but
coexist with them as it
coexist
were. Yeah,
exactly with
yeah,
nature, and this was a picture I pulled. I guess it's learning. I mean, the learning center, like
yeah,
it's a retreat, a learning center, and just a place where you can go and peacefully meditate,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I
I I I
yeah.
can't recognize all of them, but those kids, they're either from the Saturday program, but also they could be from our. We've had some of the schools. We have partnerships with the three schools in our area,
Hmm.
North Bend, Edmondson High, and Beachfield. So we have a direct relationship with them. We have a learning center. They refer kids to us for Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays for about 3 hours. We are doing something different. We are supplementing what they're doing. So they come in, um, they can get into the portals that they use during school day. They can finish their homework. We can continue or extend their learning. We focus, because the schools told us that this is where they needed the most help. We focus on literacy and math. And
Yes.
so, and then we're trying to use the park with them as well. And you can teach a lot of math with nature.
You sure do.
I've come to find out, and then the whole idea of being able to learn and listen and read and listen to stories being told in that kind of environment, um, and then to learn. These kids know what deep breathing is. Do you know what I mean?
I didn't know
They
about
know,
that till I was
yeah, right,
grown.
right. And so they know, any kids that come
Mhm.
and spend time with us, we talk about deep breathing. We
Mhm.
ask, we have this, these three kind of questions. What do you see? What do you hear? And how do you feel?
Mhm.
And when you ask those questions in the forest, they take on new meaning,
Mhm.
because you hear the trees rustling,
In the water,
right? You
yeah.
can hear the water. And guess what? Because it's an urban park, which this we're learning, we're developing something, right? And we're trying to write it down, but you also are hearing, you can hear cars in the distance, but they no longer sound like noise. They're
Mhm.
sounds. And there's a way, Robin, that they integrate into the other sounds that you're hearing, and they are familiar sounds. So what we've learned with kids that are urban, and don't spend a lot of time in parks and in forests, they need to hear a little city so that they don't get freaked
Mm.
out. It's
Oh,
it's a
wow.
real thing. It's a
Wow.
real thing. And so
Did not know
um yep. So if anybody's listening that is over there at George Washington University or Howard University or somewhere, and they want to come over and help us study and flesh that out, we need to, because it's really a thing, and it addresses trauma, um, clear trauma, and then that undercurrent where you're traumatized, but you don't really realize it, but you're just more anxious about everything
the
than you
anxiety.
should
Right.
be. Yep,
Right.
yep. And so we're learning and about all of that, and what we know that is kind of you know at the level of uh, you know, people like myself that don't understand all of that at a scientific level, we can still share with the kids, like I said, how to walk purposely, how to listen to what's around you, how to see everything that's around you,
Mm-hmm.
and then how you feel. I had a group of pastors. We did our first pastoral day retreat a
I
few
think
months back.
I have a pic. Well, this may not be it. This is just people that you're teaching, right? This picture.
Yes.
Okay. I
Yeah.
thought I had a picture of a retreat. So the pastoral group was at a retreat, or did
Yep.
they just come visit?
Yep, that
How did
was a
that
retreat. It
go?
was a
Okay.
day retreat, started like 8 o'clock in the morning until late afternoon. They came from as far as New York and deep Virginia. I think Norfolk was one of the guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some guys from local. And the whole idea, we were doing a model, right? It was a soft opening. We were trying to figure out how we can do this on a regular basis, not only for clergy, but for office workers and that. I've had contact with people in the city and a couple of organizations that they do, they'll have these team building days where they go out to Hunt Valley somewhere or out way out this, there, and
Yeah.
the other,
Yeah.
right? And we're like, y'all better recycle these dollars. Um, do
Come
y'all
on over here.
come on over here,
That's
right?
right.
And so we're
Yeah.
learning how. So we here's the key thing. Um, we designed it, right? So we designed. So I had preachers out in the meadow behind the building, and we'd been eating because we fed them good. We fed them Maryland and further south. You know what I'm saying? Menu, right?
Mm-hmm.
The right, and so we had cheese grits and waffles and all of this kind
Real
of stuff.
food.
Right. Because we don't believe in that, continental breakfast stuff, right? And so we wanted the food, and then we had a great lunch. We wanted the food to be on the same par with the forest and the forest experience. We want you to contemplate, meditate, everything else, right? And so after that meal, I said, look, don't go far, just stay right in this area and just look around, walk around, listen. What do you hear? What do you see? And how does it make you feel? And a quick story is one of the guys was like, this may sound weird, but I just went back to my childhood. I'm 12 right now, right? And he was saying how the sights and the sounds,
Yeah.
when he was able to relax,
Right.
it reminded him of being on his grandpa's farm or something during the summer down somewhere, and
Mhm.
so and others had different but similar experiences.
Mhm.
You can you you can't most what are we getting, 2 3 4 weeks a year of vacation? That's not enough.
No, it's not. It
And even
is not.
vacations are
It is
meant for
not.
one thing. What about your daily office or your daily rhythm of
Yes.
life? That's
Amen.
what we're trying to show and teach people. And we can, and doing it in an urban area that has some challenges, that's over the moon, good stuff.
Yes,
So they,
absolutely. I mean, it's beautiful. I wanted to show this beautiful
yeah,
picture. I wish I could show how actually beautiful this area is with the water running, and
yeah,
it is so peaceful. And you
yeah,
are right. It does remind you of when life was simple, when you were young, you really appreciated God's earth and the things around you. And then,
yeah,
as we got older, we got a little tainted, and other things happened. So we got to,
yes,
you know, And this is a 10-acre piece of land, right? Isn't
Yep.
it about 10
Yep.
acres?
Yep.
So I want to ask you kind of how, for other churches that may be listening, you know, what did you do to fund this? I mean, you had to connect with the National Forest Service and others. Was that a difficult process? And can other churches learn to use their facility to do these types of environmental stewardship?
The first part of the answer won't sound like I'm answering the question, but the first part of it is we have 10 acres. I learned, right? I thought it was a lot of land, but I didn't think it was so a big deal. But as I started talking to professionals, they're stunned that we have 10 acres. I remember one lady was saying to me from Audubon or Baltimore Green Space or one of those. She was saying, "Listen, I've never worked with anybody, any urban entity that had more than like 4 acres." So they were like gaga over this, right? So you're not going to get, there's not a lot of, what this is not broken up. Stillmeadow Community Fellowship, when they bought this land 30 plus years ago, it
Mhm.
was a whole block, and they bought it from a Seventh-day Adventist, entity. And so it was always one uh, block of land, and they never cut it up. So what I'm trying to say is 10 acres is unusual, but under the auspices of stewardship, you don't have to have 10 acres. You can have 3. And a
Mhm.
lot of churches do have some forest around them, or you can have 2, or you can have a half acre.
Right.
And so now I'm answering your question. And the 10 acres helped us get noticed, real talk.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in us getting noticed, we're pointing to other people who don't have 10 acres, because some of these entities, right? Federal, state, city, well, federal and state, and even cities, and some of these uh, NGOs,
Mhm.
they seem to have had a challenge over the years having really healthy relationships with community groups. Now,
Absolutely.
some of it is because they don't know how to talk to us, and
Yes.
some of it is because we don't know how to talk to them.
Yeah.
Some of it is because, I'm trying not to preach, they don't know how to talk to us, and we don't trust them.
Right.
And so if you ask me, can it be replicated? You can't replicate the acreage, but you can replicate the relationship.
Absolutely.
You can trust and verify. You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
can work with people who purport to want to work with you. And so, yep, we have a relationship with the USDA Forest Service. Yep, we have a grant related to what we're doing and what is here. But there are plenty of organizations, including the Forest Service, right, that now have urban entities, right?
Mhm.
Um, the Forest Service has an urban uh, um, priority. Um, Audubon is interested in what's happening urban.
Right.
Um, uh, Obviously, Baltimore Green Space, and I'm forgetting other people. Oh my goodness, the Interfaith partnership
Partners
for the
for the
Chesapeake,
Chesapeake. Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Which goes
Absolutely.
all the way up and down. And
Yeah.
so, and there are others. There's plenty of others. And the deal is being open. You know what our our special sauce has been, or my special sauce has been? Being
What's
available. Being
yes.
available, Robin. Being available, talking to people, having conversations, not being closed in, being adaptable, right? That's
Mhm.
been the special sauce.
Mhm.
And then you find out that people want to get in the city to help do things. Now, somebody will either write us, I don't even know how to set up, or make a comment about, yeah, they came in my name, they just tried to gentrify. Um, okay,
Mhm.
okay, you're right. That may be their somebody's purpose. But if you know that, manage to that. Don't
Mhm.
kick them out, right? Watch
Right.
them. Watch them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so we
Right.
have healthy relationships. So we're adaptable, we're flexible, we're available, and we're networky. So there's nobody I mentioned and nobody that we have that I haven't passed on or facilitated a relationship with some other uh, community or urban or Black church. I'm
Absolutely.
sharing the wealth. So
Well, we need, and like you said, we need to share. We need to share our information, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to invite you here. I know you've got a lot going on, and I wanted to say something about your resiliency hub.
mm-hmm.
Yes, and the fact that you also have solar panels. I
Yep,
mean, y'all are shaking it up there.
yep,
So
yep.
just if you can talk about your solar panels and how you main thing that churches have issues with is financing them and funding them
Yes,
and
yes,
understanding the financing behind a solar installation project.
yeah.
That's one. And then the Resiliency Hub, if you can talk a little bit about that and talk about what it does for the community, and that would be great.
The our solar panels came to us because we are a resiliency hub, and there's like, oh man, maybe there's 12 now in Baltimore City,
Mm-hmm.
and um, they are connected with uh, planning and resiliency and sustainability group inside the city of Baltimore, and they do a great job of reaching out and connecting and keeping us up to date. And so resiliency basically means the ability to bounce back,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so flood, bounce back. Too hot, too cold, too much water, too much disturbance physically or socially, and the ability to bounce back. So
Mm-hmm.
what the resiliency hub is about is they've identified like anchor places right around the city. It may be a rec center, it may be a synagogue, it may be a church for sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that they identify as having a relationship with that area. And then um of course when the emergency happens, it's a big deal. But again, bouncing back in some ways means that you prepare
Right.
before you have to bounce back to be able to bounce back. So our we've been very fortunate, again, for the reasons that I stated. Timing wise, we've been fortunate and blessed, but also because of the skill set that we have of adaptability, availability, et cetera, et cetera. And so when they had stuff available to us, we got it, and we made known the needs of our area. You know what I'm saying? And we haven't been shy about it. So the we have all kinds of equipment and supplies ready for when people need to, like we were a cooling station this past week, so that people can come in, get some water. We've handed out fans and stuff. They can come in and sit in our sanctuary and listen to music or watch a movie and stay chilled for a while, right? Because it's hot and they may not have that ability. Same thing in the winter. We're trying to identify who needs what. If it gets too cold, who needs to go be able to get their medicine? How is that going to work out? Do they know that they can have it sent to them directly? You say, of course they know. Not everybody knows that.
No, they don't.
No, right?
They
And
don't know.
so us being able to have kind of a database of people in our area that we can check on and that kind of thing. And so um for us, well, for everybody in terms of churches, there, I can't say this clearly enough. And we can follow up but okay, so there's only so many need for so many resiliency hubs, but they need more than they have. And we're working with them now. They're working on federal grants, trying to get more solar panels on more churches,
Yes.
and a thing called community solar. So
Yeah.
that we're working right now, so that, because again, we want to be help, man. We want to help people, right? And so help our community, and we want to see quality of life improve, right, constantly. So we have enough space, and we're working with Miracle City Church, which is right above us, and between us there's a lot of acreage, and
Mm-hmm.
some of it is not accessible. It's like we're never going to do anything on that side hill. So
Mm-hmm.
we can put
Panels.
solar
Array
panels,
of
right?
panels.
And
Right.
then they can make that they're going to make that available to the community. I don't
Right.
know how to whatever works, but so
Community
that people
solar.
close
Yes.
by,
Uh,
right? And so people will be able to reduce their, their utility in that regard. And so you need anchors for that who have a lot of room, because it's one thing to have let's say you had a solar panel on your house, and that's great for you, or in the backyard, or let's say your house isn't well suited for that in terms of how the sun hits it, or you got a little backyard. Well, places like churches, once we're done with the amount that we need, the rest is overage. And so we can make, if we have the right space. And again, what I was trying to say, because this excites me, so I'm all over the place. But what I was trying
But
to
it's
say
okay.
is,
It's all right.
what I was trying to say is that the federal government, I think it's the energy folk and some others, they are, and Resiliency Hub is working on to localize it. They're working on grants, right, for places like houses of worship, not them exclusively, so that we can make good use of big space so that more people can have access to solar panels and ergo cheaper electricity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is truly what we need in our community.
Yeah.
And before we go, I do want to say that your work is absolutely awesome, and it is an example of what churches can do and what black churches are doing. We just don't showcase them. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping that we can highlight and showcase, and people can reach out to you, Pastor, and ask you, okay, well, if I want to do this, what's my first step? And I met Yorel. She's awesome.
Yeah.
And she's just, just as passionate as you are.
Yeah. Right.
I know that you all share your knowledge, and that is just why I wanted you to be my first guest. And
I
I
appreciate
really,
that.
really appreciate your time. I wanted to
Can
ask.
I make a comment
Absolutely.
about that? And
Yeah.
here's the comment. I we talked about, like the range of places that we've been, my wife and I. And so here we're back here, been back here 5.5 years. Robin, I didn't bring a cachet of power contacts back with me. Do you know what I mean? I didn't pick up the phone and say, boys, I'm back. I need some money, or I need some this, you know what I mean? Or I need my political. I wasn't political when I was here before. I was a young dude. So I
Mhm.
wasn't, my family isn't from here, and they don't have a lot of, right? And so everything that our church that we've described, these were resources that were here when I got here. Do you know
Right.
what I'm trying to say?
Mhm.
Because I get asked, how did you make that happen? It's like, this was here with you before I got here, bruh. And
Right.
so it really, I can't overemphasize being open, being available, being adaptable, being a networker with folks, fighting against being suspicious. You can trust, just verify.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
I feel like there's just these silos of, there's some people, and they mostly white in the city and in other environments around us that are trying to do something, and it's not political. They're trying to do things in our communities, and then we're on the other side, like, yeah, I don't know about you. I don't.
Mhm.
Or they mess up once and we throw them away,
Right.
or we mess up once and they like, it doesn't work.
Right.
Man, if
Exactly.
you're gonna do something, you gotta prepare for people failing, messing up, not calling you back, feeling like they lied to you, and
Yes.
you
Yes.
can't just take your marbles and go home.
Right.
Anyway, you're gonna ask another question.
Right. No, no. Actually, you summed it up really well, for me. And I want to, again, I want to thank you. I know we're almost at the top of the hour. I could talk to you all day because I got a whole bunch of other questions, but I'm not, because I don't want to keep everybody here. But I really, really appreciate this, Pastor. I mean, I am going to come visit. I wanted to do it, the interview there, but it's hot.
Yeah.
So
Yes, it is.
I'll come up in the evening or in the morning, and or maybe on the Saturday with everybody else, so I could kind of see it for myself. The
Yeah.
first time I came to Still Meadows was years ago, and you hadn't gotten this going. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you remember, but it was before the pandemic, and then everything kicked off. So I want to thank you for being such an environmental steward of God's earth and helping others learn about it, because we do need environmental stewards as well as environmental advocates in our
Yep.
community. And we
Yep.
have them, we just don't
Yep.
like them. So I'm
Yep.
hoping that this is a way to highlight them. And I want to thank you again, Pastor, for sharing your wisdom and sharing all of the things that your wonderful church is doing in Baltimore.
Bless God. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. And we two neophytes with this whatever name it is,
This
yard
new,
something.
this
We
new
made it.
software,
Yes. Yes.
StreamYard.
Yeah.
Yes,
Worked out
absolutely.
beautifully. Thank you for inviting me, and I look to see you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I wanted to share with you all before we leave, the last minute, that we are also having another event. This event will be to teach you all about solar. And as the pastor just mentioned, there's community solar. And this event will talk about solar co-ops, how you can obtain solar panels on your roof, or how you can participate if you are a renter or if you cannot sustain panels on your roof. This event will occur August 1st. That's Monday, next Monday, August 1st at 7 p.m. And it's on our Facebook page and Interfaith Power and Light, DC, Maryland, and Northern Virginia. Please visit us also at www.ipldmv.org. And I am Robin Lewis, the Director for Climate Equity with Interfaith Power and Light, DC, Maryland, and Northern Virginia. And I want to say thank you for joining us. And I hope to see you again the next time. Have a blessed day. Bye bye.